It all started with a surprise call from my best friend inviting me to join a wild boar hunt in Tajikistan. From the faraway state of Texas in the United States, the long flight took me to an unprecedented journey. Everything was new, from the climate, the terrain to the way the boars moved through the mountains and forests. Come join me on my first hunt in this challenging and surprising land. From a height of 400 m, our binoculars captured a large herd of nearly 10 wild boars. We decided to move down, keeping a distance of 150 m from the pigs for easier access and better shooting range. Once in position, I quickly adjusted the scope and targeted the target. With just one pull of the trigger, the pig immediately fell backwards and stopped moving immediately. Oh, I didn't think it was that big. It was a hopeful start when I set foot in Tajikistan. Very soon, another herd of pigs was found to the surprise of the whole team. Quickly getting into position, I crouched down, looking through the scope to mark the target. A sharp gunshot rang out, causing the prey to immediately tumble and roll down. The remaining group quickly ran away in extreme fear. Perfect. We couldn't believe how quickly and smoothly everything happened. The whole team decided to change tactics, dividing up to stand at different points to cover a wider area. Standing there observing, my eyes fell upon a herd of wild boars. Without hesitation, I hurriedly ran forward to get a better look. The explosion made the pigs panic and run away. I aimed my gun at a stray wild boar and fired repeatedly. However, the pigs were too fast. They quickly dispersed and escaped. In regret for missing the previous opportunity, I started walking around looking for other targets. 10 minutes passed like that, until a wild boar suddenly charged up from the foot of the mountain. The hunter's instincts immediately arose. I quickly raised my gun and delivered a fatal blow. Immediately, the pig collapsed and rolled down the ravine. The clash happened unexpectedly, but luckily I kept my cool and focused enough to bring back the next result. In the afternoon, we moved on to another mountain, hoping to find more opportunities. We didn't have to wait long before the herd of pigs revealed themselves and were quickly discovered. The whole herd was rushing down the mountain. I know time is running out. If I don't act quickly, the opportunity will be gone. Immediately after the gunshot, the whole group started to turn in other directions. Each of them ran away in fear. We didn't give up, immediately reloaded and fired continuously. Luckily, before they completely disappeared, I took down one. Just when everything seemed under control, suddenly from the bushes, another pig rushed out, taking us completely by surprise. The group had no time to react, hastily retreated, quickly finding a defensive position to prepare to deal with it. In that tense moment, a gunshot rang out, decisive and accurate, taking down the pig before it could reach us. The sudden appearance of the wild boar just now startled the whole group a bit, but after a moment, we regained our composure and continued moving forward. The small binoculars came into play again. A few pigs emerged from the bushes. We lay prone on the ground, slowly adjusting our aim. Focus to the max, lock on the target and pull the trigger. A shot from behind causes a boar to collapse in an instant. A perfect shot ends a dramatic hunting trip. The hunting trip ends here. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. When the first leaves begin to turn gold across the forests of Turkey, hunting season officially kicks off. In the cool, breezy autumn weather, much milder than the sweltering summer, wild boars often gather in groups and head out in search of food. That makes it the perfect time for hunters like us to track them more easily. Now, let's dive straight into a thrilling, intense, and emotionally charged hunting expedition together. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, our team hit the road in our familiar hunting truck, heading toward the forest. The moment we arrived, everyone got into position without hesitation. I focused all my attention on every subtle sound and movement. There it was, the target had emerged. The wild boars sensed danger and bolted, but a well-placed shot from behind dropped one of them just in time. Still in the same ambush position, I was presented with another chance to take the shot. This time, a boar charged head-on toward me. Before it could veer away, I pulled the trigger. The animal had no chance of escaping. The hunting dogs were doing an excellent job. They had locked onto another boar. But at nearly 30 kilometers each, the animal scuttled away and escaped, leaving us frustrated and disappointed. We continued scouting the area, and suddenly, without warning, a new target appeared. I didn't hesitate, immediately got into shooting stance and squeezed the trigger. The first shot missed, and the entire group of boars scattered in panic. A rapid follow-up volley eventually brought one down, motionless on the ground. I headed into the forest tour with a few friends and our pack of hunting dogs. Under pressure from the dogs, the wild boars were forced out of hiding. I was ready. One emerged, then another, and then an entire group came into view. Without letting up, I aimed and kept firing. After a barrage of bullets, a number of them lay lifeless in the dense forest. On the other side of the forest, My friends had also taken position and waited patiently. 5 tense minutes passed in silence. Then finally, the prey appeared. But these animals were clever, weaving through the trees to avoid detection. Still, with sharp instincts and skill, Harry swiftly took one down. Less than 5 minutes later, a few more wild boars emerged, catching us off guard. Quick and agile, they zigzagged through the trees. Harry, keeping steady aim, took careful shots. Eventually, one from the group fell in the heart of the woods. I quietly moved deeper into the forest, gun ready in hand, waiting for any suspicious sign. And there it was. My goodness, not just one, but dozens of boars charged in our direction. I didn't hesitate. I quickly raised my rifle, locked onto a lone stalk, and fired decisively. The boar collapsed instantly. The rest scattered quickly. We gave chase. All of us kept reloading and firing, managing to take down many. The rustling of leaves nearby put me on high alert. Just as I raised my weapon, a wild boar burst out and darted right past me. I fired without hesitation. The first bullet missed, but the second hit its mark, dropping the beast within seconds. The deep forest, always a reliable refuge for wild boars, had once again hidden my next target. After some tracking, I finally spotted one emerging from the edge of the woods. I quickly raised my rifle and fired the moment it charged out. One single, clean, and precise shot was enough to bring it down. And just like that, today's hunt comes to a close. What did you think of this journey? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to catch more adrenaline-filled hunts coming your way. This trip was more than just a regular hunt. It was a life or death mission. Although I fought, trained, and faced countless dangers during my time in the military, I've never encountered a creature as tough and persistent as the wild boars. That's why, in today's hunt, this swamp environment became a true battlefield. Holding my rifle tightly, I understood one thing clearly. Every decision, every shot must be precise. One bullet, one life. That's the only rule I needed to follow. Swamp-dwelling wild boars not only destroy the ecosystem but also cause immeasurable damage to the surrounding environment. They wade through wetland areas, disrupt plant life, and tear up rice fields and gardens. Especially in the swamp, wild boars can easily hide and escape, making them incredibly difficult to pursue. Compared to land hunting, hunting wild boars in the swamp requires us to move more slowly and patiently, or risk slipping or losing our bearings. The swamp, a challenging environment, is ironically the perfect place for wild boars to hide, especially in murky mud pools or thick vegetation. During the journey through the swamp, we constantly battled strong currents and had to duck under tangled branches to keep the boat from crashing. Eventually, a small boat brought us to a completely unfamiliar area. Suddenly, one of my teammates spotted the silhouette of a large wild boar. Without hesitation, we climbed ashore and fired as soon as we saw it. The boar collapsed after a single shot. Soon after, we locked onto our next target, a giant boar weighing up to 120 kilograms. It was clear that this land was the ideal habitat for these monstrous wild pigs. That afternoon, I traveled alone down the river. The current had calmed since the morning. From a distance, I spotted my first target, a boar soaking in the mud. I carefully approached. Just as it stood up to flee, I took my shot and brought it down within seconds. Muddy wetlands like this are never short of boar activity. A fully grown wild boar was sunbathing nearby. It sensed danger and started to run, but my two quick shots ended that escape for good. Spotting a boar trying to escape, I stopped the boat and set up an ambush to cut it off. It panicked and turned to flee in the opposite direction, but it was too late. The gunshots echoed through the empty swamp, ending its escape. Leaving the forest and heading downstream to return, I noticed small muddy patches, clear signs that boars had passed through. I moved in and there it was. Without hesitation, I pulled the trigger. The wild boar let out one agonizing cry before collapsing. With success in hand, I headed home, tension and satisfaction mixing after a challenging day in the swamp. After a night's rest, we were back at the swamp early in the morning. Wild boar tracks were visible all over the soft ground, deep prints showing where they had passed. We followed the tracks, and suddenly the dogs began barking, signaling the prey was near. I approached cautiously. As the black silhouette emerged, I seized the moment and pulled the trigger. Wow, just look at it, a massive wild boar with coarse fur and razor-sharp tusks. Our next target that day was a group of tenacious boars hiding in a swamp near a residential area. It didn't take long. The airboat brought us right to the first target. We immediately launched our attack, giving the boars no chance to react. They scattered in panic in every direction, trying to escape, but there was no getting away from our determined pursuit. Our hunting results kept piling up, and with every step, it became clear this hunt was not only tactical but also a test of patience and determination in our effort to control the wild boar population. Time flew by, and before we knew it, evening had fallen, but the battle wasn't over yet. Our agile hunting dogs led us to another wild boar. I moved in and, without hesitation, fired a decisive shot. The target dropped instantly. The dogs were outstanding today. Once again, they guided us to another boar. I quickly aimed and fired. The boar didn't even have time to react. It fell without a sound. It seems that the skills have improved a lot through these hunting trips. These decisive shots are not only the result of experience, but also the perfect blend of keen observation, patience, and refined tactics. Thank you for following this journey. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel.
Late at night, cold winds blew through the deserted fields outside the town, bringing with them a cold and wild feeling. Under the dim moonlight, Oliver and I picked up our bags, ready for a challenging wild boar hunt. We had hunted together at night many times, and they were all wonderful experiences. This trip required not only courage, but also vigilance and survival instinct. If you want to know what interesting things will happen, follow us now. Just as we were about to set off, a bold idea suddenly popped into my head. I wanted to use my own body to lure the wild boars closer. It sounded crazy. Oliver looked at me with a mixture of surprise and concern when I shared this idea. With the desire to conquer, I convinced my companion to carry out the plan. I sat quietly by the dense bushes, a loaded gun in my hand, my eyes tensely watching every movement. From a distance, the wild boars began to move, as if they had sense of a presence. Their dark skin was mottled with color, blending perfectly with the darkness. They moved towards in a herd, wariness unable to hide their curiosity. I could hear the growls coming from their throats, the characteristic sound of wild boars cautiously exploring their surroundings. A few minutes later, the wild boars appeared in front of me, very close, sharp fangs glinting in the moonlight, ready to tear apart anything that stood in their way. I stood there and looked at me, their small but bright eyes. My mind was struggling between two thoughts. Should I shoot immediately or let them come even closer? Then the wild boars faced the muzzle of my gun. Seizing the opportunity, I shot down the first one. sound was as clean as the bullet cutting through the air. Immediately after, I adjusted my gun to fire a second shot, before the other wild boars could run away. Our risky game ended like that. The result was the first two wild boars lying at our feet. After a few tense moments, we decided to walk along the grasslands to find the wild boars. In the quiet night, the sound of wild boars echoed. A wild boar with a distinctive spotted coat appeared. As the boar moved out of the bushes, its eyes were alert, and its speed was also relatively fast. Oliver started his mischievous prank again, calling the boar several times in a row. A strange sound suddenly rang out, attracting its attention. It stood still to observe, but that was also an opportunity for Oliver to shoot. A precise shot to the head finished off the wild boar. It struggled for a while and then lay still, so we had another great trophy. Immediately after that, we moved to a position next to a pond. There would definitely be wild boars coming here to drink water, but this was also an ideal ambush location. As expected, a wild boar that had probably just finished drinking water was leisurely returning to the field. As it passed in front of me, I immediately opened fire to take it down. The fatal shot knocked the boar down. I had no chance to fire back. Tonight we had a few trophies, all of them extremely large. However, Oliver said he wanted to stop by his family's cow farm nearby. That's why we appeared here, next to the cows. Not only that, mixed with the cows, we also discovered boars rummaging through leftovers. Boars, with their huge size, thick fur and sharp eyes, didn't care much about our presence, even when I held a gun and stood right next to them. Until a soul discovered us, it seemed to have realized the danger. It continuously let out a warning growl, but it was too late. It had already entered my sights. As soon as it moved to an open space, I immediately opened fire and shot it down. This farm, wild boars were rummaging. We didn't say anything. Many people might mistake this for a herd of pigs raised on the farm. If you witness the terrible destruction when they plowed up the whole ground, you will understand why we had to hunt these pigs. In the midst of the wild boar noise, I spied another big fat boar. It was running fast across the grass, and it seemed to have sensed the danger as well. As it ran back and forth in panic, I immediately took the opportunity to shoot. A headshot caused it to collapse and struggled with painful cries before it became completely still. Another big boar. It seemed that all the boars in the area were this color. The game wasn't over yet, as Oliver and I had some unexpected mischief. He placed a loudspeaker that emitted a high-pitched screech right at the location where the boar had been shot. Soon the whole herd was attracted, and they quickly ran towards the screech. When the herd reached the top of the hill, they recognized the danger sign. Immediately, the herd turned around and ran away. Although the original plan didn't really work, I still managed to shoot and kill a boar when it stopped to observe. After midnight, we had to end the hunt because we had shot a lot of wild boars today. And of course, I will need some time to process these trophies. Thank you for following our journey. Please share your opinions in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel.
Texas is home to the largest population of feral hogs in the United States, estimated at nearly 3 million, causing nearly $100 million in damage to the agricultural sector each year. In response, Texas has resorted to everything from trapping and gun hunting to more daring methods, chasing wild hogs by helicopter. This measure is not only an effort to control the herd, but has also become popular as an adventure tourism service for shooters who love challenges. Of course, not everyone can participate. Pilots need a valid Federal Aviation Administration pilot license, and shooters like me need a specialized license such as an aerial wildlife management permit. With all the necessary paperwork and careful preparation, we began our trip. The weather today is quite nice, clear, little wind and light sunshine, perfect for a helicopter hunt. From above, I could see dense tracts of wild boars running across the sand. Then a herd of about 10 pigs came into view. I signaled the pilot to lower altitude, raised my gun, and pulled the trigger repeatedly. One by one, the pigs were hit, falling down one by one on the run. It couldn't have been a better start. Still excited, the pilot suddenly pointed to the northeast. Another flock appeared. Then the gun was loaded again. The helicopter glided low. I calmly aimed, starting with the last ones in line. Each shot was decisive. A new batch of prey was taken down. Started to move into an area with sparse bushes, but still open enough to observe. Wild boars were extremely alert and slow to react to the air. So, once I spotted my prey, especially those running alone, it took me less than 2 minutes to finish them off cleanly. I strained my eyes to find every trace. Then suddenly, another herd appeared. It seems that the helicopter's low altitude to reduce glare caused a lot of noise, which alerted the pigs. They immediately scattered and ran in different directions, making aiming difficult. I thought the drama had died down, but as the helicopter tilted into a new curve, I caught a glimpse of a pig in the middle of the open field. Immediately, the pilot tilted the helicopter slightly towards the target. I seized the opportunity, steadied my gun, and pulled the trigger. Starting to turn golden. We had to make the most of our last few minutes as the helicopter hunt only lasted until dusk. I aimed at the largest leader and pulled the trigger. I successfully took down prey with just one shot. Meanwhile, my friend Jake had already managed to kill a few other members of the pack. Here. How do you feel about today's hunt? Leave your comments in the comment section, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to follow the next dramatic hunts.